Welcome, Leo, to your July Moon Magic deep dive forecast for the ascendant, the sun, or the moon. There's a huge amount of astrological activity in July, some of it really exciting. But at the heart of the month is the energy of the moon. I'm going to unpack that lunar perspective for you, and by the end of the video, you'll have a clearer idea of what's upcoming in terms of your vitality, work, relationships, and finances. Thank you so much for joining me, astrologer Patrick Arundel. If you've yet to subscribe to my channel, please do so now to help it to continue to thrive. On the screen, Leo, is the full moon at the end of June because full moons have a 2 week backdrop. And this one was in the practical Capricorn, asking you to make sure that all those details and obligations of life is something you attend to through the first fortnight of the month. But on the other side of the heavens, Mercury, the planet of communication, went into a retrograde on the same day in a much more psychological part of your chart. And the need to be protective about your emotional energy is certainly there to the fore. You can't please all of the people all of the time. And in fact, you could be in quite an escapist frame of mind as we go into the new month. If you are lucky enough to be able to get away from it all, your timing will be impeccable. If that's not so possible, you may find that any strains that you're under could be amplified, and it can be hard to perhaps give yourself permission really to step back and free yourself from those demands. But if we fast forwards to the 7th of the month, we have the first of the two quarter moons. Quarter moons are hugely important. They get very little coverage on YouTube. They provide a backdrop energy for the following week. This one is in your sister fire sign of Aries, but it's in a conjunction with the cool, detached energies of Saturn. So that in itself can be quite challenging. If you are talking about a travel plan, a contractual matter, or maybe even applying for some kind of educational course or a professional one, just be conscious of how much emotional energy you've got to give to that situation. There's the sun in the square with the moon and Saturn. And that sun square Saturn will be akin for all of us to drive in the car with the handbrake on. But I think that weariness, if it is there, could feel stronger for you, particularly if you are someone who wants to break free and you can't. Your choices are limited. And with Mercury still in the retrograde, that's something to consider too. It may be that you do need to, in some ways, rejig your approach. What you do have, of course, is the growing influence of Jupiter in your sign, which is very encouraging. It takes us through to the new moon at the heart of the month. Now, as far as the moon is concerned, its rulership of Cancer makes this the prime new moon of the year. And it's in a conjunction with Mercury in that retrograde. But unfortunately, Mercury is in a square with Saturn. So that energy to do with someone maybe scrutinizing what you're doing, wanting information. It may be to do with a health matter where they're wanting you to submit some kind of testimonial or update them in some kind of way, and that can be a little draining. And to be honest, 12th house new moons are probably the most tender of all of them. It's asking us really to engage with our vulnerabilities, the things that we don't feel quite as robust around. And Uranus, in that very friendly 11th house for you, is in a square with Venus, the planet of money, in the second house of your situation. So you may find that some kind of expense comes up, or if you do want to break out and liberate yourself from the pressures, there could be a cost attached to it. However, if we go forwards to the quarter moon in Libra of the 21st, now this is really intriguing from a synchronistic viewpoint because when we had the solstice, the sun moved into Cancer, we immediately had a quarter moon in Libra. So we get a repeat of that energy. The sun will be moving on the 22nd into your sign, which is great news. But what we have is the square between the sun and the moon could throw up a little slice of gossip, or someone can say something that really surprises you, puts you on the back foot a little bit. Now, we do have some very strong influences developing, not least with Jupiter in that very glittering angle to Uranus and to Neptune as well. But what we also have is Mars through the last 10 days of this month clashes with Venus. And if your approach to resources doesn't quite match someone else's, it may be a friend, it could be your own long-term hopes, it may be to do with a group situation, it could be romantically, that can show up. Also on this event, we still have Mercury in 8 square with Saturn. So I think one of the things that's crucial to get right this month is to make sure you have all the details of any information you may need to share, whether it's through a job application, whether it's to do with travel documentation, whether it's to do with a matter of a contract. Make sure all your information around all of those is very, very clearly worked out and planned. That brings us to the Aquarius full moon at the end of the month. But this actually is really intriguing because for you, you have the first Jupiter Cazimi in Leo since 2015, can give you an enormous burst of energy in a positive way. But on the other side of the heavens, Pluto and the moon are in a conjunction. If there's a relationship that isn't quite working, I think it really will come to the fore at this time. However, what we also have is Mercury in a square with Saturn still, and Venus and Mars in a square still as well. So those energies around your long-term plan, the 11th house, friendships, the 12th house, things that have been hidden, and maybe to do with money, are still simmering in the background. But what I would say is if you want to manifest your individual talents, your desire to express what makes you creative, or you want to be more social, you're definitely going to explode into life through the last 10 days of this month, which is very, very encouraging. And ironically, although Neptune provided the challenge at the start of the month, Neptune provides a wonderful link to Jupiter and the Sun at the end of the month. And I think if you do head off somewhere, you can probably feel much more in the frame of mind to do it. So I'm going to summarize the overall influence of this particular month from a lunar perspective. I think the moon's really asking you essentially to begin with that there may be some everyday obligations and responsibilities that you do need to be mindful of just at a time when you may want to withdraw a little bit and have a bit more time to yourself. But it's going to be difficult to, I think, break away because of the energy of Neptune and Saturn. Suggest that there may be a situation that you can't detach from, and that can actually see your vitality be a little bit low through the first part of this month. But by the end of the month, you're moving much more into your own power. I'm going to summarize those 4 areas of vitality, work, relationships, and finances next, just to say I've slashed the price of my personal horoscope reports. They're now 3 for the price of 1. For many years, it was buy 2, get 30% off. Why? Because of the cost of living increases, and I want to make these as accessible as possible. You get your life roadmap report, which helps us to understand the patterns that play out in our lives, but you also get your 12 months transit forecast, but also your draconic soul karmic analysis. Please see below for more. If you've yet to watch your Jupiter into Leo 13-month forecast and your July general forecast, please click on the eye on the screen and that will take you through to them. If you'd like to work with me one-to-one, it'd be a pleasure. Please see my testimonials below. And if you've yet to sign up for your free written daily horoscope, find your device each morning, you can do that below too as well. So to summarize, as far as energy is concerned, I think your emotional and psychological part of your situation needs a lot of care. And one of the things that can be challenging for leaders, I think, is feeling vulnerable because You have a kind of desire to be respected at the least, which I think all of us have, but it's very strong for you. You don't like to show a weakness. But I think with all that 12th house energy and the 9th house amplifying things, it is something to be aware that you may not have quite as much as you would like. In the physical context, if you can delegate some of your obligations, get other people at home to pick up some of the domestic heavy lifting, that would be a smart thing to do. When it comes to your long-term situation around your work and who you can align with, if you are open to collaboration and cooperation, and there is a clearly defined plan of who does and contributes what, I think you can make progress. Now, Venus is going to be making its way through your sector of finance from the 9th through to the end of the month, but is challenged by those energies in the 11th house. So whether your values or approach to money is going to clash with a friend or a partner is really down to you. You might also find yourself being a bit more impulsive at some point during the month. As far as your relationships are concerned, I think having the square between Uranus and Mars and Venus is intriguing because Venus in the sign of Virgo, after it moves out of your sign, is not at its best, but it is also very functional. And sometimes relationships are, the thoughtful gestures can count just as much as the candlelit dinner. But maybe if you feel that your social life has got cramped a little bit with someone you're seeing, you may yearn to spend more time with your friends. Will that work for your partner? Well, if they don't like it, it's going to show up on that Aquarius full moon at the end of the month. But in terms of if you can be quite canny about your resources and not spend freely, I think they can improve through the latter part of this month. And as far as your outright professional situation is concerned, with Chiron at the top of your chart, don't don't get into Jupiter's square with Chiron to try to mask that. If you're not sure about a particular approach or way to do something, you're applying for a job, having an interview, I think humbly owning that will actually create a much better impression than trying to wing it and give the impression that you absolutely have it all. It's been a real pleasure being with you, Leo. All the best.